Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the world building, storytelling, and characters of video games. Because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and it's episode 100.
Oh my gosh! It's episode 100. Time has flown by.
It's been a while.
Yes.
A lot has happened in that time.
Wow. We survived quarantine. We had a child.
Yeah.
I had 2 different jobs.
Yep.
That switched through. New career change for me.
Yeah. It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. And
through all of that, 100 episodes.
100 episodes. Really consistently, too. When you think about it.
Yeah, I don't think we ever missed a release date.
I think we delayed by a week twice. Twice we've delayed by a week. Once was after I gave birth. And the last time we did it was actually a week after. We might have done around Gen Con this year, I think. So.
Maybe.
But regardless, we're really here to celebrate the fact we've got 100 episodes done.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And we're just surprised that we got here.
Yeah. If you'd like to help us celebrate and contact us and stuff, there's numerous ways you can do that. Like that. That's a good segue, right? I just ruined it now.
The smoothest of segues there, Mystic. Oh my gosh.
You can contact us and celebrate with it. I'll just keep doing that. On Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Reddit, YouTube, and Steam. Steam not as much, but...
Yeah, we're there. We're there occasionally.
All of those are down in the description. You can also contact us via email at loretogether@gmail.com or through the Discord. Boss Rush has a Discord. They're a network we're part of. You guys know that already. Go to bossrush.net. You can join the Discord. The other way you can support us is through thumbs up, 5 stars, likes, hearts, whatever it is where you're listening. We appreciate it. Or through Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes, early access to our Let's Plays, exclusive access to my blind first hours, as well as our mini episodes.
Mm-hmm. Which somebody has to post, maybe another one of those.
Yes, working on it.
So, with that being said, it's time to celebrate. And what we did is we asked for some words of our friends, specifically more to talk about the favorite parts of video game lore that they've experienced or video game lore that they love or appreciate. And we've gotten some great entries. Now, but one thing that we've been grateful for throughout all this time is that we were invited to join the Boss Rush Network, which has been a fantastic, inclusive, inviting, welcoming area for us to be our nerdy little selves and getting into this little niche that we like of exploring so many different video games and the kind of stories that they tell. And to help us commemorate, being part of the great Boss Rush team there are the co-founders of the Boss Rush Network, Corey and Eddie V, who welcomed us with open arms and have been just great supportive fans for us for a long time. So here's some words from them.
Hey guys, it's Corey from Boss Rush Media, and here with me is my pal and my buddy, also co-founder, Eddie V, Edward Varnell. Hi, Ed.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
We are we're here to obviously congratulate Lore Together on their 100th episode.
Yes.
I mean, Ed, you and I know how important these milestones are, and it's really exciting to see a great show have gone this far, right? And as you and I have been doing this for such a long time that sometimes we don't really like when it comes to we don't really do we do anniversaries for I think the next one we're going to do is 500 for Pow Block, right? But that 100th episode, that's really the first milestone of any podcast or show, or I know they do YouTube stuff too, and it's a huge deal to hit that first major milestone. I mean, that's 2 years. I mean, if you're doing it weekly, that's 2 years, you know?
Yes, and with all of their streaming and hitting 100 episodes, that's a lot of deep lore that
Mhm.
they have explored in video games. And I'm so proud of them, proud of you guys for all the work that you put in. Um, with Lore Together. It's a fantastic podcast. I enjoyed the streams when you guys have them on. And you guys choose a lot of great games that if people don't know about, they can listen to your podcast and find out, all of this lore, which probably will and like encourage them to get engaged and play those games. So once again, congratulations to you guys for 100 episodes of Lore Together.
Yeah, it's a big deal. We are really proud of you. We're happy that you have been part of, Boss Rush's network and everything for this long, and you keep going, and it's really great. I know we gotta have you guys back on the Boss Rush podcast or Nintendo Power Block at some point.
Yes.
Because the last time they were on, I wasn't here. It was them and Laurent and Stephanie, I think. So uh, very proud of you and your work. Keep it up. Uh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to interact with you guys and know you guys. Except there's like that mysterious thing about them that they don't really let anybody know who they are, which is also like part of the mystique, if you will, of
Part of the
them.
lore.
Yeah, it's their lore. Nobody really knows who they are. But anyway, congratulations. We're proud of you. We're happy for you. And
Yes.
here's to the next 100 episodes.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
And Eddie for taking the time and helping us commemorate the fact that we've got to episode 100. We've done it every other week, so it took a little longer
Yeah.
than 2 years, but we got it done. Uh-huh.
Also, it's online. We like being just names.
Yeah, we're private people. I will say we have met some Boss Rush Network in public in the flesh, so they know that we're real people.
Yeah.
So we're not robots. We're not large learning machines. We're not anything like that. So, in fact, another person, I think Eddie was out here in Chicagoland, and we met him. Yes, and we also around that same time we got to meet in the flesh another Boss Rush member, Stephanie. Stephanie was with us, like Corey had mentioned. She was with us when we were guests on the Boss Rush podcast with Laurent, and we asked her to start off with, as many of our other friends will throughout this podcast, share some of her favorite lore from a video game, and we're really excited to hear what she has to share.
Yeah, so let's listen to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey friends, this is Stephanie from the Boss Rush Network and Boss Rush Podcasts. Thank you for letting me share a little bit about some of my favorite lore. Congratulations, by the way, on your anniversary. That's awesome. My only apology is I'm sure that my choice of favorite lore that's precious to me is probably common, but it is anything to do with the Legend of Zelda series. As you can clearly tell, I'm pretty serious about it. Which lately, with the release of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it kind of almost seems like a joke to really look to the Legend of Zelda series as one steeped in lore, only because Nintendo has not really cared for the timeline or anything. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have various areas on the map named after previous games, previous areas, previous characters. So it threw a lot of fans into a tizzy and kind of flipped out, like, where does Breath of the Wild and Tears fit in the timeline? Why are you not connecting everything? And Nintendo's like, fill in the blanks, which I'm okay with. And that doesn't mean The Legend of Zelda doesn't have any lore. I do like the timeline just because it's there, it's fun. I think the key cornerstone is Skyward Sword being the first game in the timeline. I just like the establishment of Demise as the beginning of the perpetual curse and battle between the iterations of Demise, whether it be Beast Ganon or Ganondorf, all the iterations of Zelda, and all the iterations of our hero. And there's still lots of lore as far as the deities that are involved, like the three goddesses, Din, Feor, and oh my goodness, I'm kind of blanking out. I've had a very long week. Din's Fire, Feor's Wind. There's one more, and I'm embarrassing myself, but you can your reaction, you can fill that in for me and take my Zelda card away. But you know, even with each iteration of the game, you've got the Twilight Realm from Twilight Princess. You've got the world post Wind Waker through Spirit Tracks in the new world there. There's just a lot of lore where there also is enough mystery where us, the player, can fill in the blanks if we so wish. Another example, you know, is the story and game behind Majora's Mask. There are a lot of side quests in that game where you can kind of investigate and get to know the characters. There's the lore behind the hand in the toilet that appears in several games in Zelda. So it just, for a game, or franchise I should say, that keeps repeating upon itself while keeping it fresh and spinning on a few things, really intrigues me. In fact, the latest that's caught my attention is the Zonai. I was incredibly happy that Nintendo took a tiny aspect of the existence of the Zonai in Breath of the Wild, which was in the Faron region, and just completely expanded on it in Tears of the Kingdom. I love their color palette. I love the outfits. It seems like they have a certain way that they dress, that they carry themselves. They have their own set of powers with the tears. I won't go any further for spoilers. So just kind of the gamut of why I love The Legend of Zelda so much. There's been scores of games that's come out built on a core principle of the Triforce, the goddesses, Hylia, and the Perpetual Three, the hero, the villain, and the wise princess. And it's one that I don't think I'll ever get bored with. What do you guys think?
So I'm not going to take your Zelda card, Stephanie.
No, we can't take. We're not of any authority to take
No.
anybody's Zelda card here.
But the missing goddess is Nehru.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for. I was like, I know what she's talking about, and I totally.
Also, the hand of the toilet is a thing that I wasn't 100% sure was a continual
you
thing.
Guys, when I listened to this clip, like, I made a face to Mystic, like, what is she talking about? Hand in the toilet?
Yeah, so there's just this hand that it's all you can see, and in one of the games it's coming out of a toilet, in another game it's just coming out of this thing, and apparently
I don't associate toilets with Legend of Zelda either. Like, I'm sorry.
So, but yeah, I mean, we covered the timeline, at least the start of the timeline, the unified timeline, way back in
episode 32.
Episode 32, okay.
And we also covered A Link to the Past in episode 83.
Yeah.
So we've covered Legend of Zelda series a few times. I think there is something to say, as much as we like a more streamlined canon story between Mystic and I, that there is something fun about a series like The Legend of Zelda that lets you fill in the gaps, lets you figure out the mystery and think about it almost feels like how we practice history now, because part of history is theory. Because you have to take the clues of what you have from the past and try to fill in the blanks of, like, how did people live, what was important to them, and everything like that. And with a story like The Legend of Zelda, you can also do the same thing. You're trying to fill in the gaps of, like, well, there's this constant theme of, you know, the fight between Link and Ganondorf, and the aid of the Princess Zelda, and how it keeps repeating again and again in the same world. But how come it keeps repeating and repeating? Why is it never like done? You know,
Yeah.
and is it because maybe this version of the story is actually the main legend, and then there were other versions of it? Maybe it's spread to other continents, and we're really just seeing like different versions of the same story. You know.
Yeah. It's fun to get lost in the weeds a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of you start getting into that point where there's a lot more fan theory sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Fallout, Skyrim, all of those also have the same, like a lot of fan theory to fill the gaps, but there's so much more continual, or at least crafted timeline there than there is in Zelda.
I think the difference is, and I've talked about this so many times. The last few months, I feel like this subject has come up mostly outside of the podcast. But we've talked about how I don't like the theory of having the mystery box, right? Where you write a mystery box, but you don't explain what's in the box, and you never try to explain what's about the mysteries around what's in the box.
Right. The person writing the timeline or writing the story should know at least a little bit about what that box contains.
You need to be able to answer basic questions about the mystery in the box, even if you don't plan on having them ever solving the mystery, which I think is fair. But to have a mystery you don't solve that's relevant to the story, I think that's fair to have. I mean, H.P. Lovecraft technically does it all the time. So I think the difference is like Nintendo writes with that J.J. Abrams mystery box theory forward. Like, we're just going to keep doing this stuff and have you guys keep guessing, and you guys really like it, and we're not going to have to placate actually getting solid, capital A answers for you. Whereas I think Bethesda specifically puts in a lot of, when it comes to the Fallout and Skyrim universe, they do have a baseline of what the actual answer is, but they don't want the audience to know because that's not the point.
Yeah. Also, Nintendo isn't approaching always as a story-focused developer. They approach as a gameplay focused developer, and then they wrap the story around the gameplay.
Exactly.
So,
and I think that's part of the reason why the fans still love it to this day. And like now it's like almost a generational thing. Like if any of you guys follow Stephanie, she shares her love of Legend of Zelda with her son. So kind of like what we do with little buddy, sharing our love of video games with him.
I just wish he wouldn't swing a sword at me.
No, he can't. This is why we don't play Breath of the Wild in the house anymore, because he's going to swing a sword at us.
Yeah.
And the sword is whatever, long toy he happens to have, whether it's like a cardboard tube or a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
It could be anything. So
he likes to fight monsters.
He wants to fight monsters.
Yeah.
That's great. I really hope he keeps that enthusiasm for fighting monsters. But he can't be doing it at my drywall. So thanks, Stephanie. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think that's a really good place to start, because it's something where it's like, it's a broad, deep connection. Stephanie always loves, like she's talked about many times, Legend of Zelda. And I think in general, I just remember when we spoke on the Boss Rush podcast before, I would get the sense Stephanie loves these big, broad, epic stories. And Legend of Zelda always delivers that. You always have an epic tale. So, but next, another friend of ours that we met through Boss Rush Network. Although differently, I think Celeste is one of the first people I ended up speaking to before we officially joined. She also interviewed us for 1v1, which is an offshoot of the Boss Rush podcast.
Yeah,
It's
I believe
like
that was
one-off.
you though, that alone.
Yes.
Yeah, because I wasn't there.
You were not necessarily available. This is also when little buddy was really little. So he was kind of in the background. At one point, you were in the background too for the interview as well. And it was just such a delightful conversation. She's somebody who does great interviews, and just in general, just an all around like person that I just love nerding out with online every once in a while when I catch her on Discord. So here is Celeste's contribution to our celebration.
Hey there, Safi and Mystic. This is Celeste Roberts, your friend from the Boss Rush Network. Congratulations on 100 episodes of Lore Together. That is a tremendous feat, and I'm so proud of you both. I know you put a lot of love, time, attention, and passion into this project. And I think it's really important for people to continue having these kinds of hobbies and interests, especially as the world tends to demand more of our time. I'm so honored that you asked me to contribute to this special episode about one of my favorite video games and its use of world building and its lore. So I don't know if anyone else is going to have this game. I'm curious, but a game series that holds some of my favorite lore is Animal Crossing. I bet you thought I was going to say The Legend of Zelda, right? Well, there's something about Animal Crossing that is much deeper than what you see on the surface. So I love games that encourage exploring and talking with every single character, and that kind of gives you the ability to unlock some hidden stories, something where you really have to pay attention, you have to interact with the characters, you have to put forth a little bit more effort. So for example, in Animal Crossing, you can learn a lot about the mercantile mavens, the Able sisters, those sweet little hedgehogs, by talking to Sable and Mabel every day. Sable is a bit more reticent, and she'll give you these very sparse responses at first. But if you continue to try to talk with her, she will begin opening up to you about their family. So you learn that she and Mabel's parents passed away, and because Sable is the older sibling, she took care of Mabel at a young age. You also learn they have another sister named Label who has this shop called La Belle. Get it? Label, but with 2 L's and an E at the end. You know, it's French. And Label ran off to be a fashion designer with the esteemed Gracie, that iconic fashionista giraffe you see in some of the games. So you can also learn about Pete the mail carrier's crush on Phyllis. Phyllis is one of the postal clerks, and she has a sister named Pelly, and you learn Pelly has a crush on Pete, but it's unrequited. Someone pass the popcorn. Animal Crossing has way more drama than you'd believe. So I know that Animal Crossing's mode of play is more about building things, hanging out with friends, customizing your home, fishing, catching bugs, doing these fun little holiday events, but if you take the time to learn more about your neighbors and the different creatures, I don't want to say creatures, the different people, the different animals, you'll gain insight into their lives in a series spanning 2 decades at the time of this recording. So I find that really charming, and it's very realistic because amidst our busy lives in real life, if we take the time to learn more about our neighbors and our community, we can uncover some rich stories. So thank you for letting me talk a little bit about Animal Crossing. It's a relaxing game, but it also has some neat little Easter eggs, and it has the opportunity to get to know your neighbors better. So again, congratulations, Safi and Mystic. Here's to 100 more episodes.
I did not expect Animal Crossing.
I did not either, but it made me so happy. Oh my gosh.
The funny thing is, I don't know. So I knew about Sable, Mabel, and Label.
That comes up a lot more in this New Horizons, which is the one that we played a lot, especially during lockdown.
I vaguely remember.
Oh, Pelly and Phyllis? Yes.
I do not remember anything about, that was back before I really played games for lore to the extent I do now.
Yeah.
And Animal Crossing hadn't quite hit me quite yet.
I did Animal Crossing for a good bit. So I had one of the original Nintendo DS's. I called her Bertha because I was still playing her when she was old. So I called her Bertha. And the Animal Crossing was definitely one I came back to for there was a good solid few months where me and a friend, that was our thing. We were playing it all the time. And Phyllis, and it was funny because I was so used to I believe if I remember correctly, yeah, Pelly is the perky, fun one that you see during the day, and then you go at night, and then you meet Phyllis for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you're like, oh my God, Phyllis, can you? Who hurt you? She's just so rude. She's one of the rudest people you'll meet, and in at least the version that was on the DS.
Oh, okay.
So it was definitely a really fun to get the different because when you play at night, you realize, oh man, this is really different, and it kind of helps
it's one of those
bring in that immersion as well.
It's one of those things that you and I can't really do because of little buddy. We haven't played at night
that
much with Animal Crossing.
Especially now because little buddy is more demanding about, and when he gets up, what he needs. And like, it's harder we can't play our Switch in the bed with him.
Nope.
He will watch it with us. Back when he was a bebe, little buddy did not notice that we would be playing if he's asleep, if he's feeding or something like that. So,
but like in New Horizons, there's that ghost character.
Yeah, who only
I
comes
have
out at
seen
night. Yeah.
Once.
I've seen him a couple more times just because I played more at night than you did.
And also, there's the whole alien invasion thing.
What? Wait, alien invasion thing?
So apparently, if you're watching TV, you know how they have the whatever TVs you can watch.
Yeah.
In Animal Crossing, I think it's 3:30 in the morning on some day of the week. It'll switch to an alien broadcast for a few minutes and then switch back to the normal stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah, never saw that. What the heck?
That's the only Easter egg I remember that is tangential to lore.
Yeah. But Mabel and Label and Sable have been staples throughout the series.
It was really good with Sable, though. I was so happy
Sable,
to talk to her, and it makes you want to go talk to her. Like, it's weirdly...
It's just satisfying that you built up a relationship like that. Brewster, for me, in the new one.
Yeah.
It's the same way.
And I just remember the police dogs.
Oh, yes, the police dogs. Oh, man.
Who you had to talk to was it to go to a different town?
I think so.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
I just remember them being the lost and found as well, which then got relegated to the recycling bin.
Yes, the recycling bin became your lost and found. So, but thanks so much, Celeste.
Thank
That is
you.
definitely a game. We've talked about covering it, but we weren't sure how. So we'll have to explore that. I think that's one that I would probably try to dig in deep into.
Yeah, you seem to gravitate towards those a little bit more.
I love those games where, I love a game where there's little stories that you gotta find on your own. I think those are very fun. Even if it's one big epic story, the idea that there's like little side stories that aren't even necessarily relevant but fun. That happens a lot more in exploration games exploration and like building games like Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley is another one that I love so much. Things like that. Although I will say, since I'm currently on my Baldur's Gate 3 kick, that game also has that as well. There's definitely one point where my druid turned into a cat to go through a hole, met another cat, and literally had a conversation as if they were essentially like warriors talking to each other about fighting vermin. It was amazing.
I'm actually more annoyed right now because it never occurred to me that a druid could change into an animal that could go into those holes. And so I've never actually...
It literally says things like rat hole and cat hole.
First off, I've never played a druid in the game.
Oh, okay, fair.
I kept trying to dig them out with shovels. So...
Oh, well, I guess that is one way to do it.
I have not played very much of Baldur's Gate, though, so I haven't quite grasped all the gameplay mechanics quite yet.
There's nothing to grasp. However you play it is the right way. That's literally what I'm figuring out.
Fair enough.
All right. So, thank you so much, Celeste. That was super fun and quite a delight and a surprise. It would have been fine if you also had said Legend of Zelda, though, so don't worry
I was
about
expecting it. I was, so...
Okay. So next we have a longtime supporter of the podcast, not part of the Boss Rush Network, but a fellow podcaster. The host of Written in Uncertainty is Aramithius, someone who has supported us from the get-go about lore in games in general. There are a lot of podcasts like his that support, just looking at the lore of a certain game. We also are friends of Dragon Age Lorecast as well, who do similar stuff like that, who have also there's a Mass Effect Lorecast, and the hosts of Dragon Age Lorecast have other offshoots of that as well, who do other...
Oh yeah, there's tons of people who dive into like a solid game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a podcast that should be listened to, and especially super fans are always going to love a chance to listen into and see if there's anything they've missed, which I definitely have done.
I'm going to assume what Eremithius is going to cover, but I could be wrong. So if he doesn't cover Elder Scrolls, Written in Eternity is a very deep dive into Elder Scrolls lore.
Super deep. Eremithius is a thorough researcher about this stuff.
And
has
I get tons of notes whenever we do an Elder Scrolls episode.
Yes, he is a scholar on the subject. But it could be something else entirely. So without further ado, here's our friend Eremithius.
Hi guys, Aramithius here. Congratulations on your 100th episode. It's been a really interesting ride. I've really enjoyed being on board with you guys as you've meandered through all of the various stories that you've covered for the games. It's just been fantastic to be on that journey with you and hear all your perspectives and all these fantastic games that, to be honest, I will probably never get to play or experience any other way, but they still have some fantastic things. So thank you ever so much for unpacking them, and here's to 100 more episodes. And in the meantime, you've asked me for some of my favourite lore. It will come as no surprise that my favourite lore from video games will be the Elder Scrolls series. At this point, I absolutely love how everything is presented in those series of games, because they generally don't do any hand-holding as to giving you what the lore of the world is. It's just, here you are, you're in the world, off you go, realize what everything is, figure it out for yourself. Everything is presented with an agenda, with a perspective, and that sort of teasing out of what the truth is behind everything is just really fun as far as I'm concerned. So that's been sort of my basis for understanding the series for, I don't want to think about it now, more than 20 years at this point, which is scary, frankly. But in terms of the overall things of the lore, one of my most favourite bits of it is the 36 Lessons of Vivek, which is a 36 book long series. Well, I say book, 36 text bits. It's in-game books, so it's not huge volumes, but it's supposedly a sort of holy scripture for one of the tribunal, and everything that sort of came out of that. And it's big, it's complex, and you can spend hours poring through it. And, well, in some cases I know people have been looking at it and reading it and rereading it and bringing new meanings out of it years afterwards. And so it's just some of the most dense and fantastic pieces of lore. And I don't necessarily want to say world building as such, because it doesn't necessarily contribute a huge amount to what Tamriel is, but it's a fantastic perspective and you can dig a huge amount of things out of it. And so I just thought I would give you a little teaser by going through Sermon 1. Just to preface it, just for some more weirdness to it, it was written by the developer Michael Kirkbride, who described the process of writing it as being, quote, "It was one dev, naked in a room with a carton of cigarettes, a thermos full of coffee and bourbon, and all his summoned angels." So with that said, this is Sermon 1 of the 36 Lessons of Vivek. He was born in the ash among the Velothi, anon Kaima, before the war with the northern men. Ayem came first to the village of the Nechumen, and her shadow was that of Boethia, who was the prince of plots, and things known and unknown would enfold themselves around her until they were like stars, or the messages of stars. Ayem took the Nechumen's wife and said, "I am the face-snaked queen of the 3-in-1. In you is an image and a 7-syllable spell. I am Iseti Ivek, which you will repeat to it until mystery comes." Then I am threw the Nechumen's wife into the ocean water, where dregs took her into castles of glass and coral. They gifted the Nechumen's wife with gills and milk fingers, changing her sex so that she might give birth to the image as an egg. There she stayed for 7 or 8 months. Then Set came to the Nechumen's wife and said, "I am the clockwork king of the 3-in-1. In you is an egg of my brother sister who possesses invisible knowledge of words and swords, which you will nurture until the Hortator comes." And Set then extended his hands, and multitudes of homunculi came forth, each like a glimmering rope through the water, and they raised the Nechumen's wife back to the surface and set her down on the shoals of Azura's coast. There she lay for 7 or 8 more months, caring for the egg knowledge by whispering to it the codes of Nephala and the prophecies of Veloth, and even the forbidden teachings of Trinomac. 7 Daedra came to her one night, and each one gave the egg new motions that could be achieved by certain movements of the bones. These are called the Barons of Move Like This. Then an 8th Daedroth came, and he was a demi-prince called Fanuit Hen, or the multiplier of motions known. And Fanuit Hen said, "Whom do you wait for?" To which the Nechumen's wife said, "The Hortator." Go to the land of the Indoril in 3 months' time, for that is when war comes. I return now to haunt the warriors who fell and still wonder why, but first I will show you this. Then the barons and the demi-prince joined together into a pillar of fighting styles terrible to behold, and they danced before the egg and its learning image. Look, little Vec, and find the place behind the splendour of my bladed carriage, for in it is delivered the unmixed conflicts path, perfect in every way. What is its number? It's said the number is the number of birds that can nest in an ancient Tiberol tree, less 3 grams of honest work, but Vivek in his later years found a better one, and so gave this secret to his people. For I have crushed a world with my left hand, he will say, but in my right hand is how it could have won against me. Love is under my will only. The ending of the words is Arm Civi. And that's one of the, shall I say, simpler ones to go through. That's the one that's sort of setting up Vivek as a god in some ways. It's giving Vivek a divine and more or less self-made birth, so to speak. This is saying that the tribunal helped create the tribunal, and it's setting the stage of the 3-in-1 there being the tribunal, because Set and Ayam, or Almalexia and Sothasil, are the other 2 members of the tribunal, and this is also setting the stage for when Vivek sort of comes onto the scene, that before the war with the Northern Men, sets the time frame for it to be, I want to say, somewhere in about the 5th century of the First Era, when the Nords were kicked out of Morrowind, and everything that sort of comes after that. And those events, though, the kicking out of the Nords and then the war with the Dwemer, form the basis of the background to the Elder Scrolls 3. So this sort of holy scripture, so to speak, is one perspective on some of the formative elements of Dunmer culture, and this is sort of the beginning of one of the more intriguing characters within the Elder Scrolls, in my opinion, because Vivek is lots of things. Vivek is something like a warrior, a poet, a liar, a schemer, a god, a mortal, all sorts of things, but above all else, Z and the rest of the Elder Scrolls lore is absolutely fascinating, and that's what sucked me into your podcast to start with, that 4-episode series that you did at the start of your podcast, and it was a joy to listen to, and I really hope you guys carry on doing what you're doing. Thank you ever so much for putting this podcast out and giving us some fantastic, fantastic things to listen to, and carry on, guys. Cheers, bye.
Aramithius, you've blown my mind. Like, I literally did not, of all the things that I know of from the Elder Scrolls universe, which isn't as much as Mystic, but still, like, the books, just knowing that exists, and like, dude, I was trying to figure out, like, so, I'm used to reading mythos in a way where I can see the thread line of the symbology, and there's no thread line. That's just the whole full blanket. Like, that's just the whole sheet of so many things going on at once. There's a math problem in there out of nowhere. I felt like I was failing the SAT. Like, this is just, it was insane.
And yeah, I think that just the sheer amount of names in there, like, we could do episodes on each of those races, each of those names. Probably.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, because I'll leave that for Written in Uncertainty to dive into that.
No, that needs to be its own podcast. It's just the analysis of those 36 texts.
I'm sure it is.
Because that alone, you'd have to probably go through 2-3 episodes if you were going to do about an hour each on all of the topics and concepts that they're talking about in that first text. And that's like one of the simpler ones. I was so lost. I was making so many faces. Like, at one point I literally just screamed, "What?" Like, I hate to say it, that's part of the magical fun of it all, right?
Yeah.
Like, the being befuddled about it. The source of inspiration with, like, if to write something this insane, you need to be alone in a room unclothed.
Do you see why I get notes from Aramithius when we do Elder Scrolls?
Yes.
Like,
again, he is a scholar, and we appreciate his support from the beginning. And holy guacamole, wow, that is, like, eye-opening. I also want to note, like, so we've been through three series, and I think all 3 of them have been around for decades now.
Yeah.
You know, kind of pointing to the fact that this is a hobby now that, like, there are generations of experience. We're legitimately like seeing this start to happen. And we're amongst a bunch of friends who have not only grown up with it, but have become adults within it and have gone back to stuff and appreciated it from a different perspective, even though we might have first encountered it. I mean, 20 years ago, it's definitely not the same people that we are now.
And incidentally, I don't think Michael Kirkbride works for Bethesda anymore. So,
well, I mean, if he went to the office working like that, there's no way.
I could be wrong. I could be thinking of someone else, but
yeah. But that was, oh my gosh, that was amazing, enlightening, and I think I just might have just gone cross-eyed a little bit.
See, this
there.
just scares me. So I have a Let's Play for Skyrim for our patrons first, and then YouTube second, of Lorik, a Breton assassin, and his adventures in Skyrim.
Right.
He is a aficionado of books because it's
of
what
course,
we
because
do.
it's our.
And I have to read all of the books at least once on camera. I am scared now.
Wow.
Because I've already read a couple, and that was a whole episode of me just reading, like, I think 4 books.
Yeah, they write pages of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So once I get to
interesting.
Vivek, I'm going to be kind of really worried because that seemed... I want to know how many takes you took of that, Ermithius, to get that across.
Yeah, that must have taken a lot. Yeah, I appreciate the dedication to the craft. Oh my gosh. Well, oh man. Another friend of the podcast who is not necessarily part of the network, but somebody who supported us from the early on was Snescapades, the pair who go through all of the old Nintendo Power magazines, as well as old Super NES. They have restructured how they're doing the podcast now. They've come back. They took a break and they came back, but they're going through and they're looking at a lot of the old Super NES games, which was my first console. So always love it, and occasionally they join us during our live streams as well. So
yes,
we've always appreciated support. So we asked Snescapades to give us, a little clip of something, the same question we asked everybody else, and this is what we got.
Hey everyone, I'm Chase Keys.
And I'm Emmy Zero.
And we host a little show called Snescapades, a chronological journey through the North American Super Nintendo library.
And for the 100th episode of Lore Together, we've been asked to provide a little lore history lesson for a game series that Chase and I both hold very dear to our bloody, ripped from our chests hearts. Mortal Kombat.
Yes, Mortal Kombat, long-running series. It was a big deal back in the 90s. Had a very bad Super Nintendo port. But, there's a lot to cover here. We've only got about 5 minutes, but we're going to try and rush through this. We're going to see how much Mortal Kombat we can get through.
All right, we can do it. Let's go.
All right, yeah.
All right, so let's start off here. Mortal Kombat is about a universe where there are 6 different realms. Some of them have really cool names. Some of them don't. These realms are ruled over by a series of elder gods, most of which we don't know the names of. But in order to keep the different realms from just kind of being in a constant state of war, they are all set up to compete in a tournament, a fighting tournament every 100 years called Mortal Kombat. If one realm beats another realm 10 tournaments in a row, they get to rule them. And that is basically the starting point for the entire series of games. So from there, we can talk about Mortal Kombat 1. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat 1.
Well, original Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 1 is actually the newest game in the series.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's start with Shang Tsung and Goro. Shang Tsung is a sorcerer from Outworld, which is one of the other realms that we talked about before. He is joined by his second in command, Goro, who is a large guy. He is of the Shokan race, which are these big 4-armed dudes who can pick you up with 2 arms and hit you in the face with their other 2 arms. It's very convenient. And they have just been eating Earthrealm's lunch for a long time. Basically 500 years ago or something like that, they beat up Kung Lao, the great Kung Lao, and have been essentially just handing Earthrealm its ass ever since. We open with a bunch of Earthrealmers who really, really want to not let them win another tournament, because if they do, they get to take over. Not the best situation for a political relationship, I think, but, you know, hey, who am I to question the Elder Gods, right?
Right?
So,
yeah. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah, so we get Liu Kang, who is a Shaolin monk. We get Johnny Cage, who is a Hollywood martial artist. We get Sub-Zero, who is a ninja from the Lin Kuei clan. His real name is Bi-Han, and he's got ice powers for some reason. We got Sonya Blade, who works for the U.S. Special Forces, whatever that is, and she is going after a guy named Kano, who is an international criminal who's also somehow gotten himself wrapped up in this. Also, there's a guy named Scorpion. He is a wraith from the Nether Realm, which is another one of those realms, which is basically hell. He was murdered by the Lin Kuei, or so we believe at this point, and then basically got to leave the Nether Realm to compete in this tournament for some reason. Also, we've got Raiden, who is an Earthrealm demigod, a thunder god, and he wants to give Earthrealm a little bit of an edge. And I think that's everybody.
That's everybody. Yeah.
Yep. Liu Kang ends up winning this tournament, killing Goro. Shang Tsung is defeated, so he goes back to Outworld to talk to Shao Kahn. And okay, we are already at like 5 minutes.
Seriously? Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's 11 more of these games to go. What are we gonna do?
I guess. Well, I guess that's all we can do. We're sorry we didn't get into like the majority of the characters, or the time that the series got rebooted, or the time
or the other time the series got rebooted.
Yeah. But there's some stuff about Akami Dogu and ninjas that turn into robots. Toasty. And who could forget the classic character Hornbuckle as well.
Never forget Hornbuckle, y'all. If you know one thing about Mortal Kombat lore, you gotta know about Hornbuckle.
Yep. Well, I guess that's gonna do it for us then. Hopefully the folks at Lore Together can pick up the slack for us here and cover the entire rest of the series for us in this episode.
Yeah. Good luck with that, guys. We are rooting for you.
All right. Well, I guess that's all from us. Thanks for having us on, and play it loud.
Yeah, we'll just cover all the rest of the 11 games. Why not?
We've covered a good chunk of them. We covered the realms.
So that was episode 31. We covered the realms. And then if you want to talk about the second timeline, that was actually recently, episode 95. Yeah. So there's a good place to start. Now, that's kind of like bits and pieces of what, they were referencing. But wait. This character.
Hornbuckle?
Yes.
Okay, so remember we talked about Blaze in that recent episode very briefly, and we talked about Blaze in the beginnings of Mortal Kombat, where they talked about the creation of the universe.
Okay.
Hornbuckle appears so Blaze is in Mortal Kombat 2, apparently, in the background of the pit stage, fighting somebody. That somebody has been named Hornbuckle.
Does he have a horn and a buckle? Is that what? Does that?
It is a very pixelated image. We are talking really low res, old stuff here.
Because I heard the mention of Hornbuckle and I was like, I fail. I've take my Mortal Kombat credit.
Yeah,
I can't.
I believe both Blaze and Hornbuckle are just shrunk down sprites. I think of Liu Kang or Johnny Cage. I can't remember. But, is Johnny Cage? Yeah, Johnny Cage is in that one, I think. But they're both just super shrunk down, and then Blaze is just on fire. Like
what? Oh my gosh!
It's just two dudes sitting there back. They never moved. They just kind of move back and forth. That's it.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it is hard to cover Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, we covered the first game only when they rebooted it. We never covered the Genesis. Yeah. We never covered, the early 90s games up until the reboot.
Yeah, we only did the second timeline, not the first timeline.
Yeah, we never touched the first timeline at all beyond what was referenced in Mortal Kombat Armageddon with the creation of... Actually, no, Deception and Armageddon, where we talked about the Kamidogu and the realms.
Right.
But we didn't get into Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, 3, 3 Ultimate Trilogy, 4. We never touched 4 at all. Like, that's where
Right.
Chinook comes in, I believe.
Wow.
At least as a playable character. We never touched the character of Tanya or Mortal Kombat mythologies. Like, do we have to talk about Mortal Kombat mythologies? Maybe not.
Is that a dangerous thing to talk about?
It's not a good game.
That's bad. All right. Well. Oh, man. Yeah. I appreciate you guys trying to cover as much as you can in 5 minutes. At least you got a really good foundation there. You got the good starting point where we can bounce off, and then I guess the rest of
and now we do have to cover, at some point, Mortal Kombat 1. The new one.
Yeah. Add that to the list.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I feel like that's a series that, we could be doing this. We could become, forever alive, diamond storage, brain CPUs doing this podcast forever. And we would still have Mortal Kombat episodes we need to cover. Like, I think that's kind of where we are at this level.
We could cover the novelizations that were different from the first movie. If you want to get...
Oh, man. We still have to cover the movie. We have not talked about... We've watched the first movie. And we have not talked about it.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Do we cover the movie? Because it's based off of a game series first, so...
I feel like that might be something extra special we could always do. Is like...
Yep, sounds like a patron episode.
Yes. We'll do some movie rankings with that. So, thank you so much, Chase and Emmy.
Thank you.
Snescapades. That was hilarious. Love listening to you guys, and I love your appreciation for the retro stuff that touches my little nostalgic heart.
Yep. And thank you for watching the streams.
Yes, thank you so much. We always love it when you guys dare. Oh my gosh. I just realized, though, Mystic. Are we ending on Snescapades? That was the last one?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's our 100th episode. It's over now.
Yep.
It's come and gone.
I have to start working episode 101 now, I guess.
Wow, way to just bring in the dread. Oh, man.
No, I have plans. I have ideas. And definitely Aramithius and Celeste. Well,
yes.
you'll cover Animal Crossing, so I'm not going to step on that. But all of them, Stephanie, Aramithius, and the Snescapades have given me some ideas. I mean, Snescapades, we just did Mortal Kombat, so maybe not as much. But
they're right. There's so much to cover. We will be back, as I mentioned before, in perpetuity. There will be more Mortal Kombat lore.
Yeah.
But I think for everything that we talked about, like I mentioned earlier, it's all series that have been around for a long, long time, 20, 30 years even.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, just to end it on kind of a sappy note, Mystic and I have always been not only fans of storytelling, but storytellers ourselves. It's a craft that we practice. Mystic is able to practice even professionally, but we also practice it, on our own, whether it's, trying to write stories or tabletop RPGs with our friends or tabletop RPG one-shots, when we're at cons, things like that. And it's an art form that we love and appreciate. And we've always used this podcast to kind of celebrate video games as a storytelling medium.
Mm-hmm.
Video games as an art form. That's kind of been our thesis of our show, even if by accident. It wasn't really our intention when we first started this show. But through all the games that we've covered and reacted to and had thoughts on, and, philosophical concepts came from, existential crises, violent urges to murder capitalists like Ted Faro. We've kind of proven the thesis that video games is just as a legitimate of a storytelling medium as every other storytelling medium that you encounter. And you can tell that has to be true because not only of the depth of the stories we covered, but of all the friends who shared the lore that they shared with us today. They're stories that have stuck with them, or universes that have stuck with them for years.
Yeah.
And they're not the only people out there who feel like that. And
I mean, that is why we literally started because I could not shut up about Myst.
Yeah.
And we're just kept talking to Safi about Myst, and it's like, we should do a podcast about this.
Yeah, and now it's one of our favorite things to do. It's one of the things we look forward to. We look forward to hearing from you guys who join us on the Discord or comment on the live streams or even send us the occasional email talking about it. And we really, I just think doing this 100th episode the way we did kind of just solidified for me that what we do is really important and touching and special, and I'm just glad to be offering a space to do that. Now I'm getting teary-eyed because holy guacamole, how did I think I was going to get out of episode 100 without a little bit of a tear? Oh man, thank you friends for sharing.
Thank you very
everything.
much.
Thank you to Corey and Eddie and Stephanie and Aramithius and Celeste. I know I did that out of order. I'm sorry, guys. And Chase and Emmy, thank you, all of you all, for helping us celebrate this. Thank you, fans, and even new listeners for coming today and giving a listen. We look forward to doing this for as long as we can.
Yep.
As you know, I mean, obviously, if a comet hits the Earth tomorrow, this is it.
You're saying I brought it down.
What?
You're saying I brought it down before.
Yeah. Yeah, that was out of nowhere. But we're so happy to do this show, and we're so happy that you join us every other week when we release something new.
And thank you for listening.
Thanks so much.
We'll catch you in episode 101.
Catch you there.
And on the streams.
Yes, streams.
Patrons will get to decide what this stream is going to be. It's going to be from one of the games that was covered. One of the franchises that was covered. So
yeah, patrons, keep a lookout for that. Also, we are doing on our alternate Thursdays Mass Effect live stream.
Yep.
So
I did a poll this time. It was actually up. So good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, husband of mine. So please become a patron and vote on that. We'll see you there. We'll see you at the next episode. And
thanks again.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.